Yuill is going to be our first talk of the night with Blow Up Your Life, figuratively speaking. I got some fun facts from her. I know that she wishes she could do roller derby, but she hasn't.
The live music performance was every Nick Cave concert ever. I believe that's how it went. And now you get to walk out here carefully. Guys, if I make it back and forth across the stage about 14 times tonight without falling, I better get a shitload of high fives. So please give Amanda a big hand.
I've got a confession to make. I love to blow shit up. So much so that I made a career out of it. I spent just over a decade in the mining explosives industry doing research and marketing. But after a while I started to realise that rocks weren't the only thing I liked to blow up. I started to notice that every 3 or 4 years I'd take a part of my life and I'd blow it to pieces. From careers to relationships to where I made my home in the world, it seemed like nothing was sacred. You might be thinking I just like a bit of drama in my life, and that's probably fair, but what I was learning is that in order to take a bold leap forward, you've got to tear something down from the past. So when we think of explosions, we tend to conjure images of chaos and destruction, but that's not what I see. What I see is that we're taking some starting materials that have an enormous amount of potential energy. We're giving them a bit of a kickstart, and we're creating something even bigger and better than before. So let's think about how that works. So starting with energy, right? Energy can either be taken very literally, so the number of joules that something has in it, or it can be taken as something more personal and ephemeral, like the energy that we burn up inside of us, or that we choose to put out into the world. Now, when you think of an explosive is only two things. It's a fuel and an oxidizer. And right now, those two things are really innocuous. They're just going to sit there and look at you. But what they do have is an enormous amount of potential energy. That is energy that hasn't been unleashed yet. And it's a lot like when a diver goes and gets ready to jump off the diving board. Okay? So in our lives, that fuel represents the skills that we've accrued over a lifetime. And the oxidizer, that represents our passions, the things that light us up. Every one of you out there has skills. We all acknowledge that. Every one of us has passions as well. And one of the things that we often do is either ignore these altogether or we forget to mix them together. Because until you mix a fuel and an oxidizer together, you haven't got an explosive. You've just got two beakers of stuff. So when you've mixed your fuel and your oxidizer together, to get it to go bang, you're going to need to add some energy. And this is like when the diver jumps off the diving board. Where does the energy come from? We call it activation energy. And in explosives, it's really, really easy, right? You take a little electrical current or a tiny shockwave, and you use it to ignite a fuse head, and that gets things going, and it's all great. But in our lives, this activation energy is courage. Courage is like a muscle. We build it up through continued use and through building on bigger and bigger things. But courage is deeply personal too. So what's terrifying to me is going to be a piece of cake for this guy. So you mix your skills and your passions together into this great little Molotov cocktail. You've been building up your courage and you press the go button. What can you expect? So an explosion is just a rapid expansion of matter from a solid or a liquid state to a gaseous one. And during that expansion, what happens is all of that potential energy is released. So when you blow up your life, expect just that. A rapid expansion, a disruption of everything you know and hold dear, a period of uncertainty when you're not going to know if you've made the right decision or not, and a period of time where everything in your world is new and terrifying and awful, and now you're thinking, blowing up my life sounds like the worst idea ever, why haven't I even consider it? But stick with me, because what happens next is the dust starts to settle. You start to see the new contours of the landscape and the new possibilities all around you. You see that your perfectly planned detonation did exactly what you wanted it to, and that your rigorous risk assessment meant the things that inevitably did get broken weren't the things things that mattered the most to you, and maybe they were even reinforced by the shockwave from the blast. What you've done by taking this reaction to completion is you've taken all of those skills and those passions that were bottled up inside you. You've applied courage to them, and you've gotten them out of you and into the real world. You've unleashed your awesomeness. So when you leave here tonight, go back into the real world out there, you're going to keep walking around with your skills and your passions bottled up inside of you, or you're going to give them a good shake, throw in some courage, and blow up your life.
Everybody going first is so challenging, but if you have sparkly boots and a skirt that kicks that much ass, and I asked, she bought it in Australia, so yeah, I know. I want her to just like do guided meditations or give me bad news or do to-do lists for me.